Hey guys, it's Ethan from Zimmer Labs, and this is going to be the first of two videos, hopefully, that I do tonight. This is a Saberforge Prodigal Son that I built for Kevin. Kevin, I hope you like it. Let me know what you think after you have a chance to check out the video. It's a Proffieboard with Neopixel blade. Budget build, no crystal chamber, but some extra cool stuff with this that I'm really happy with. First off, I want to give a shout out to Saberforge for, I think they've stepped up their game. I really do, and I've done a bunch of these Prodigal Son builds. This hilt, brand new. Kevin got it brand new and sent it straight to me, and I have to say I'm impressed. The quality of this hilt versus the others I've done in the past. I've worked on some used ones and some new ones that were new but not recently new, and they weren't this nice. The finish on this guy is really excellent. It's chromed. That being said, there are a couple small things that I would nitpick. The first being, if you're gonna do a chrome hilt, do it in chrome. Do the whole thing in chrome. What I mean by that is this grenade section here and this trim ring, and then the triangular belt clip here. Those sections were still a matte finish aluminum, and it doesn't really stand out that much, especially this little thing here. And I know I'm probably being picky about this, belt clip, but if you're gonna do a chrome lightsaber, the whole thing is shiny and gorgeous with really nice, clean angles and nicely machined and well designed. Take the last step and make it perfect. Make it all chrome. Don't skip this part and this part and this part. So I polished these sections up, and I even polished the little ring, or the little triangular belt clip here, so that it would in fact match. So that's why you guys are probably saying, what are you talking about? They do match. They do now. And then the other small little quirk that I have that I'm not real impressed with is the little vent cap down in the bottom. If you unscrew the pommel here, it is held in by a washer in the back, and that's great and that's fine. Nothing wrong with that, but the little vent section itself is plastic, and not only is it plastic, but it is the most brittle plastic I've ever seen in my life. This one I didn't have any problems with, but I was working on a Saberforge Qui-Gon hilt, and I literally looked at this same piece on that one, and I looked at it wrong and it broke in half. So luckily I had a replacement piece for it. In fact, it's right here. I had a replacement piece for it that was actually metal, so I replaced it with metal. But it's just a little tiny thing. It's not a big deal. At the end of the day, it's not going to make or break anything, and most people aren't even going to notice it. But if you're selling a really nice premium looking saber, and you've stepped up your game, and your finish and your hilts are more on the premium side than they have ever been in the past, do the whole thing. That's all. To get into this guy, you'll notice a little piece of tape here. I just do that because this kind of bangs back and forth, and what that does is end up scratching here and here. So I'll let the customer take the tape off, and I'll let them worry about if this gets scratched up. But like I said, this finish is gorgeous. There's not a single scratch on it, and despite the fact that I'm wearing gloves, I'm still managing to get a little schmutz on this, but trying to keep it as clean as possible so you guys can enjoy the video and really see this thing as it is intended to be. To start with, set screws up here, just one turn, maybe 1.5 to release your blade or your blade plug. I did a stock Custom Works Pixel onboard Neopixel connector with a plastic custom Saber shop clear trim ring around it to insulate the electronics from the metal of the hilt. And so that's obviously going to be illuminated for, oh yeah, that's right. So for accessing the internals, for this guy, like I said, this is a budget build, so I was trying to keep the price down to as low as possible, as reasonable as possible. So I wanted to, you know, not use an expensive chassis, or even better, if I could use a chassis I already had. And so I tried, because it seemed to fit pretty well, I tried using an Inception Elite Goth 3 Designs chassis that I had an extra one of, and lo and behold, it fits perfect. So those of you guys who are looking for a good chassis, just basic chassis that'll fit inside here, this Goth 3 Designs Inception chassis, the one that's intended to have the crystal chamber, all you need is just the bottom plastic section. Fits great in here. It goes, basically it sits from here to here with just enough room for the speaker to not hit the pommel. I put a nice, one of my JBL speakers on here. Recharge port is there. And underneath this little cover, which snaps on via this steel loop that I put into it, that just grabs onto these little channels here. Underneath there you have your USB and SD card access, and then you just snap that guy back on. You need to recharge, you can recharge it there, and you can use a kill key if you want to. It's not necessary because I did a kill switch, but you have the option of putting a kill key in there if you want. And then you simply push this guy back in. Screw the pommel back on, and that's that. To get the Neopixel connector in here, I had to do some modification to the emitter section here, because those of you guys who have one of these or have seen one of these before, what Saberforge does is this piece and this piece are separate, and this piece right here used to have another side that sticks out about ½ an inch this way, so when you slide your blade on, that piece actually sits inside of the blade, and it's intended for a Luxion in-hilt install, so that the LED would be down here and it would shine up through that and into the blade. But if you're doing Neopixels, you have to have your blade connector recessed inside here, otherwise you're going to have a dead spot at the beginning of your blade. So I had to take that portion of this part of the emitter and cut it off. So what I did was just that. Let me see. I don't know if I can show you guys. Yeah, not really easily. This piece can be unscrewed from this piece. You just unscrew it and it slides right up. Well, no, I think I could probably. It's hard to do because this wants to unscrew from here instead. There's really not much to grab onto, but let me get my rubber pliers real quick. These things are great. They are aircraft tools, aircraft mechanics tools, and they have rubber jaws, so you can really grab onto shiny chrome things without worrying about jacking up the finish. No, well, unfortunately, I'm not able to unscrew that right now to show you guys, but this piece, this section here, would literally just unscrew and pull off and away from this section, and then I basically cut it flush, sanded and polished the cut side, and then mounted the blade connector right to it. So that's really all I'm trying to say. On this side, it's a pretty short thread section, not a big deal. It's actually nice. I like my thread sections not to be really absurdly overlong. Remove this, and these are your main wires that run up to the blade connector. Right here you see your power plant. This is a 2170 Samsung 40T lithium ion battery. 40T is a really great battery for a lightsaber because of its large capacity and really high amps. It's a really high current, really high capacity battery. So if you can squeeze one of those into your lightsaber, it's a good idea. Here is another one just so you guys can see what we're talking about here. So, a Samsung 2170 and 40T right there is your model number. But it's like an 18650 battery, but just a little bit wider, a little bit longer. 5 millimeters longer, 3 millimeters wider. So it's not massively bigger, but just that little bit does make enough of a difference that a lot of chassis and a lot of lightsabers really, you can't fit it in. But Kevin wanted really to have a big power supply for this guy, so I did want to get it in there, and I did manage to modify the chassis by cutting a bit of it away so that I could get the bigger battery in there. Now to work this guy, what I did was I used my Corbanth LS6 control box setup for controls, and it really came out really well because the control box is the same size as the Saberforge one, and with a bit of sanding and polishing I matched the finish of this guy to the rest of the lightsaber. So to activate this guy, you simply push the clamp card down a millimeter, and now she's on. So there's your kill switch right there. That's off, that's on. I have two working buttons here. That's your power, your auxiliary. Working LEDs here. Red tells you that the saber is active, powered on, but the blade is off. Green tells you blade is on. Very simple. Not a whole lot of craziness going on there. Put the blade plug back in here. I did just a basic razor blade style, turbine style blade plug for this guy. Nothing crazy there. Let me put in, don't mind this blade. It's not perfect, but this is just my shop blade. I haven't actually built the blade for this guy yet. If I had already finished the blade for this guy, I would be showing it off, demoing it with its blade, but I didn't yet, so. This is just a shop blade, so it's got some marks and whatever, but it shows you what's going on and what you can expect, and it's actually a bit longer than I would like, probably by an inch, just because it only sits a ½ inch deep inside the emitter, so you don't want it to be too long, because then it just, you know, you get less sturdiness, less grip on the blade itself. So if you're going to start swinging it around, you want to keep the blade to a reasonable length with this type of emitter. But this blade is also built using my new HD Neopixels that are 188 pixels per meter. And I haven't actually showed these off yet. So this is, I guess this is a first. And it's brighter and it's smoother because the pixels are more dense, but probably not so much so that you guys are going to notice a drastic difference in the video. There's a drag right there. It's a blade lock up. So what I did for the blade array on this guy is lots of different greens. So I started with semi-washed out, a little bit pale color green, which is more along the lines of what the Hasbro color looks like in the Force Effects sabers. Then this is a more saturated, limey color green with a really cool delayed ignition sound font. I really like this, so I delayed the ignition on the blade to match it. And it's I just really like that. I mean, I don't know why it was done that way or what that sound font was supposed to be for, what character, but it's really cool. Anticlimactic. Next up, we've got a more pale green blade. An even more pale green blade. Nice, really aggressive, pulsing, flickering, light green blade. Then a modestly flickering or pulsing green blade. This is a green and white audio flicker blade with a blue and white audio flicker blade lockup and clasp. So it's got really awesome contrast colors. It's really just aggressive in person. I think it's also got an RGB effect in it, so when it moves, you get a rainbow effect. Oops, I turned it off. So that's one thing to bear in mind as you're getting used to this lightsaber, Kevin. You want to remember that this is your off switch, so I just pushed the thing up by mistake because I'm holding it here, so probably a bad idea. So I will jump back up to where we just were. And as I was saying, there's an RGB effect. If you go side to side, you get a full rainbow spectrum of colors. Hopefully you guys can see that. I'm not sure if that comes through or not. And then this is a high-speed color cycle blade that goes from cyan to green. Really fun. I like that guy a lot. And then it's got a blue and white Brownian noise distortion effect for the blade clash. So hopefully you guys can catch that, but there's a lot of interesting stuff going on inside of that clash. I did not do a blade lockup effect though, so I have to go back and adjust that a bit. Next up we've got, this is a pulsing, I think this is another audio flicker blade that I did with, I think it's the same colors, but what I did was I just changed the pulse width and the speed of the pulsing, which, as you can see, changes the color. So now this is more like a cyan, a really cool cyan. And then I did an orange brown noise distortion clash and blaster block color. And yeah, this has also got RGB built into it too. So when you swing it around, you get a lot of orange flashing through it. This is a white blade with a red flash on flash. And this is probably not going to stay on the Saber unless you like it, but it's one of the blades that Frederick included in his original config, and occasionally I like to break it out just because I used to really enjoy it. I like the contrast of the red on white for the clashes. Then you got a green fire blade because it's a Return of the Jedi saber, makes sense. This is a green to cyan to blue gradient blade. And looks like we may be back to the beginning again here. Yep. So that's back to the beginning. So that's about it for this guy. Thank you guys, of course, as always, for watching. Kevin, let me know what your thoughts are. If there's anything you want added, adjusted, removed, as far as the blade array goes, and anything as far as special sound fonts or anything that you really want. I loaded it up with a bunch of good ones. I think there's 12 to 15 on there. They're all smooth swing, and there's plenty of room still in the card. You know what? I don't know if pretty sure I loaded up force effect sounds too. Yeah, so I tried to load up a bunch of good Luke quotes.
Yoda, the Jedi Master who instructed me.
And all you have to do is hold down the power button and then release it for, you know, a second while the blade is on. And each blade should have a different one or more. Well, evidently, the first two have the same one, which is not cool.
Indeed, you are powerful, as the Emperor has foreseen.
Strike me down with all of your hatred. Strike me down with each passing moment you make yourself more my servant.
Your power's a weak old man. You can't win, Darth.
Well, that's got an Obi-Wan Kenobi quote, so that needs to be adjusted. No quote on that one.
Don't know the power of the dark side. Indeed, you are powerful, as the Emperor has foreseen.
So you guys get the idea there. I need to go do a little tweaking in there to make sure those are perfect, but basically every blade should have at least one force quote within it, if not 2, 3, 4. And then they play randomly when you just hold the power button down. The other thing that goes with all my lightsabers is if you want to have a soundtrack, there's a track for every blade. So before you fire the blade up, you just do a long press on the power, and that starts playing your track. This is the Last Jedi duel sequence. And it plays with all the sound effects from the Saber too. So that way if you want to do, you know, some dueling, battle, sequence, whatever, you've got yourself a soundtrack. This was, I think, The Force Awakens. Duel of the Fates, because it's awesome. This is the opening credits. And you just give it a long press to shut it off. And that is about it for this guy. So Kevin, let me know what you think. Like I said, if there's anything you want me to change with anything, let me know. And thank you guys for watching, and stay tuned. My next video is something that I am really excited about because it came out really, really well. It's this Dark Lord from Watto's Junkyard in Saber Bay. Masterpiece version, fully modular chassis, really loaded up and tricked out. So stay tuned, that's coming up very, very shortly.